Okay, here I am. I know, it's a bit like a school day, isn't it? Where you go out because it's sunny. Although this is my mum's house. My mum's house, and it's where I was born. Not born, brought up from about 4. And you'll hear light aircraft, holidaymakers. We're on the coastal road here, so very near Lusty Glades Beach, which you hear about if you've read that one. Lusty Glades Beach, still on Amazon, bestseller. It's very similar to me, that guy. And that's still selling really, really well. Paperback, ebook, and audio. Audio's gone really well. So in that case, I am going to do an audio. I'm going to do an audio on this one. That's my latest one, which is pretty much based very, very near to here on the North Cornish coast, near Newquay, Perranporth. I just love it. I just grew up here. It's my playground. I used to come running home from school and run down the steps of Lusty Glades and dodge the waves that were taking out everyone's windbreaks. And at high tide, the waves would hit the wall and then rebound back again. Since then, masses of tons of sand have blown up and been swept up in the swells and taken a lot of the fun out of it. But it's still absolutely stunning. So it's lovely to see Porth Bay, everyone on their paddle boards, and it's just. I was thinking that, like, when I was a kid, in the evening it would have all been empty because people didn't have wetsuits and they didn't have paddle boards, so they'd go home to their guest houses and hotels for dinner. But literally 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, still people out on their paddle boards. It's good to see. Good to see. I love it. Staycations, really good. Weather's always like this down in Cornwall, as I always say. You know that. So today we're going to talk about a little bit. Thanks for joining us. Thank you very much, everyone. I think there's a total of about 25 of you so far. Thank you. Got a thumbs up. Let's stick the comments on, shall we? Let's see what a few people are saying. Remarkably little abuse. Very disappointing. Jackie, hello. Stephanie, and thank you. Olva. Monica joined. Thank you, Monica. So yeah, it's we're going to talk about a little bit about the Taser. I know a lot about Taser. I use Taser, and there's a blog I call, if you search WordPress Taser Harry Tangye, then you'll see my blog, which was 2016. So it's the previous Taser, but it's exactly the same sort of. Everything is just as true about it today. And I called it Taser as the tool of the pacifist, because it, without a shadow of a doubt, has saved lives. I've seen it save lives. And it saved lives of the subject, who meant that they didn't have to be shot. They were tasered. And it also serious injury to police officers at the very least. So I'm just going to talk a little bit like that. I haven't done this for a fortnight. I think it's a fortnight. I tend to do fortnights now because the week do tend to come very quickly. And I do the Moorland News, which is I do a column for around Devon. It's got quite a big caption area, but and I was thinking, okay, for this month I'm going to be doing something about this, and then news changes very quickly, so it might be a bit about lots of things. Ryan, you're a star. Thank you. Reading your book at the minute. Love it. Thank you very much. I mean, I tell you what, I will do a audio for that. I'm going to do an audio for that because it's quite a fun one to read. It's just basically, if you remember Cornish, if you were on a Cornish holiday when you were a kid, it's just bringing all that nostalgia back, but also with the crime behind it, just normal policing, which I witnessed. And it's like a Firearms and Fatals Part 2, but it's in novel form. So I could just sort of colour it up a little bit, really. Lee, Taser, and your thoughts, if you can, read this latest report and comments from Chief Constable Dorsey. I think it's Dorsey, is it? She's great. She's got right up in my estimation. Let's start about that, shall we? But first of all, because I haven't spoken to you since the horrendous murders of those 5 people before subject turned it on himself. I'm not going to mention his name. I don't think his name should be the famous one. It's in Plymouth and Keam, which has rocked the community there. So absolutely just horrendous. And it's very local to me. I was a sergeant in Plymouth, where I got promoted there for 3 years. And it's quite a big city for Devon and Cornwall. It's certainly a big city, but the communities are within it as well, and Keyham is one of them. And it's not known as one of the rough communities or anything like that by any means. And it just shows that this sort of thing can happen anywhere if we're not careful. And sometimes you wonder, well, in what ways we can prevent these things. Well, clearly they're going to be looking at the issuing of firearm certificates. I'm really cautious about people saying, let's not look for scapegoats here. You've got somebody who is assessing whether somebody should be issued a certificate. And they say, well, why do they need a gun? Well, Devon and Cornwall, they do. There's a lot of, even if you're in the city, you are able to keep a gun in your flat, in your whatever, as long as it is in a secure cabinet attached to the wall with a key, not in the key lock, and and these sorts of things. Because the environment around here is very much ready for that. The rural area, you get farmers who are very happy for rabbits just to be brought their numbers down, so to protect their crops and things like that. And whether you believe in that or not is another argument. But at the end of the day, they do. People say, well, they should have checked their social media and all that. Well, social media, I think that's a new thing that was being looked at by the government and hadn't come to a conclusion yet. There was several reports coming in, they're waiting for it. So again, don't scapegoat the police force, Devon and Cornwall, for it. They were the investigation will look to see whether the rules, regulations, and advice were followed. And I think we just have to wait for that. But don't jump to conclusion. Well, they should have checked the social media. Who's going to check everyone's social media into massive depth? If they are, then they're going to have to supply the resources for that. And if it's coming from the police budget, then they're going to take boots off the ground on the front line in order to do that. It's just practical solutions you need to find. Yeah, and when I say boots off the ground, it doesn't mean uniformed officers. I mean, it could be civilian support staff. Of course it could. But there's still money that you could pay for a uniform on the front line. So and then you have to look at, okay, well, what's the track record? It's pretty good in Devon and Cornwall. And nationally, generally, it's pretty good. So it's important we don't find scapegoats. It's important we don't find scapegoats. Let's just have an adult look about this and bear in mind, 2 weeks is, it's gone it's gone very quickly, but for those people involved in that community, it's very, very raw and will be for many years to come. So, so basically the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, independent. It's not what I thought it meant. Anyway, so they, I used to try to give them a bit of, it used to be the IPCC, Independent. I don't know, what was it called? Anyway, it's the IO, it was changed a few words, but kept the independent in there. In my personal opinion, it stinks how they treat police officers. And okay, so you're going to do an investigation on Taser, right? So what I would do, I would choose, okay, over the last 5 years, let's took random Taser deployments. So that means when they come through in the control room and you say, and officers either draw or pull the trigger of their Taser. I'd want to have a look at all those, wouldn't you? The IOPC don't think that is very sensible, because that would probably give far too much of an accurate, a viewpoint of what is going on out there. Yeah. So, but no. So what they've done, they've said, we're going to have a look at 101 complaints, right? So complaints. So basically, in this day and age, if somebody gets tasered, whether they deserved it or not, you'd be a fool if you didn't put a complaint in, because the IOPC and certain aspects of law is it's a law of, it's court of law, not necessarily court of justice. Remember, it's who wins on the day a lot of the time. And what have you got to lose? Just put a complaint in. There might be some money in it, Now, I'm putting aside all those genuine cases where officers have acted completely out of training, recklessly, they've seen red mist, or or they've used it completely inappropriately. They are minuscule, because I tell you what, their colleagues wouldn't let them get away with it, because it would suck those same people into that trouble, and they don't want a part of that. It's hard enough doing a job as it is. So the IOPC, they've decided we're going to deal with 101 complaints. So let's see how biased they're going to be, shall we? And what you'll find nowadays, the IOPC will, even if you are somebody complains, say, yeah, they were horrible to me, they threatened me, they beat me up, and then the investigation shows it was all on CCTV, it was all on camera, and they were perfectly civil to them, and they weren't beaten up. But the IOPC will tend to say, yes, but we've advised the force concerned that they possibly could have given them a silver blanket to put around them because they complained that they were cold, right? So that is tick. Advice given to the force. Force is completely undermined in their what they've done, when at the end of the day, some idiot is getting arrested using minimal force, and they complain, and then still is these little advice things. They have to have something. They have to have something. And I often think, and I'm not going to stay personal about this, but there are quite a few individuals there who've been criticised by judges and things. But I often think, well, who are they assessing? Who are they saying? So assessing police officers have been instructed and trained in the use of taser, and they're giving advice over this and giving recommendations. And what's their training? Have they ever been on the front line when somebody wants to rip your face off, and it's you and them? And they think it's a little bit like, well, can we discuss this? I'm sure if we discuss this nicely, we'll be okay. So, but anyway, they've done these 101 complaints. So how biased are they going to be? 101 is a minuscule thing. In 5 years, that's basically 0.01% of taser use. So we'll say, well, that's a lot of taser use. Okay. I think, is it 1 out of every 10 are actually fired? I think it's similar to that. Tasers brought out, red dot on them. Police officer, get on your knees, you're under arrest, blah, blah, blah. They see the red dot, they've seen the TV programs, they go, oh, I don't want to do, or they've been tasered before, they don't want to be tasered again. That's the end of it. That is put down as a use, because it was an effective use of that taser. If it didn't have that taser, and they said, oh, hey, police officer, they'd go, yeah, get lost, copper, So that taser is a use, but it's nice if you can just mix it in so it sounds like you actually pulled the trigger on each occasion. All the use of taser have been doubled in the last year, mainly because phenomenal amount of extra training has been given to a phenomenal amount of extra police officers. And instead of having to wade in and get both parties injured, red dot on, quite right, and that is enough to detain the person. If somebody's stupid enough to then come and say, no, I'm going to rip your face off, why is it that the police officers should give them the benefit of the doubt that they're just calling their bluff? Why? They go to work. They don't need this crap. They want to go home to their families, pay the mortgages, go home safely, and they don't want to face off and have a fight with somebody. Now, taser, that 50,000 volts, it's the amps that kill you. That's why it's like 0.011 or whatever it is. Amps, it's tiny, tiny. So people say, oh, yeah, well, look at the records and all these data, okay. You could do pretty much, you could pepper spray someone and they'll, under certain circumstances, they might die because they have a heart attack, because of their anxiety attack or something like that. So you can have people die following, and plus, if you think about it, someone's been tasered, they've probably been fighting and struggling and enraged and that side of things, but because they've been tasered, the taser killed them. Taser has been around for quite a long time now. My personal view is that it will not kill a healthy person, and it won't kill a sick person, but a sick person in all the right circumstances, it's not going to be beneficial to them. But I would suggest for those people in those positions, don't fight the police. Just a little hint there. Don't fight the police. I will say, though, is when the police come across something and they're looking at the mental health side of things, they will be looking at, okay, how can we deal with this separately? Differently. How can we avoid walking into this and stirring it up? if nobody else is in danger, then why don't we just step back and have a little negotiation and say, you know, come on, let's talk about this, you know, it's, you know, share fairy cakes around and things like that. But if it works, it works. Joe Blogs. My uncle's a firearms instructor in Exeter and went on a visit a couple of years ago. It was awesome. Oh, well, I will know him, Joe Blogs, and I will very much know him. And your uncle will have had the near on impossible task of training me over many years, or, you know, even in the last bit. Retirement. Joel, finding retirement, very busy, a bit stressful at the moment. Lots of things going on in my life at the moment. Mum's a bit ill. I'm here to help my sister look after my mum. That's why I'm back here. So I'm moving from Torbay to Newquay, leaving family in Torbay. Things going on everywhere, and this year is a bit of an experimental thing. I have got some appearances coming up in theatres with like Palace Theatre. It's like frontline chat on the road. I'm in the Chester Literature Festival that is coming up very shortly. That's with Dave Wardell. And we've got I don't know if you he's a top man from Grumpy Old Man. Arthur Smith, brilliant comedian. His dad was a police officer in the 1950s, and he's got a hilarious thing to do. So we're putting something together on a stage, bit of light-hearted evening, have a couple of beers, maybe flog a couple of books, but I won't force you. Don't worry. But the thing is, as well, if some people are quite interested and say, "Oh, I'll go and see if Harry, see how short he is or skinny he is," because you know. And they think, "Well, I've got their books, or I'm not interested in his books." You might have a look at Dave Wardell's or something like that, or other books at the Literary Festival. So it's going to be fun. So I've got that sort of thing coming up, but ending up in March in Paignton, big place there. So more details later on. Going back to the taser very quickly, though, I've got to say the Chief Constable is a lead for less lethal weapons. So that means not guns, but like baton guns it is, and taser and pepper spray, it's less lethal. So they can't guarantee it won't kill you, but there's very little chance it will. So she's written a blog because she is part of the Association of Chief Police Officers. And they've usually been quite like reserved about all this stuff. And she has come out all guns blazing. And she said she's extremely disappointed that it did not engage, the IOPC did not engage with policing. They didn't attend a taser training course. They've done this 101 times. Who are they trying to impress? Seriously. I allegedly suspect that they may be virtual signaling to some very loud people out there who are very small in number, and they're not interested in the actual truth. I don't know legally. I don't know, but I would like to be convinced that they're there for a nice, even, balanced investigation. How about that? But no, they don't go before they criticize it and give their valued recommendations. Oh, because they know so much about taser. Sorry, the extreme sarcasm is exuding from my veins. I do apologize. They don't even go to a taser training course or consult with the national independent experts, you know, the ones who actually know what they're talking about. How long are we actually going to be listening to this body? Because I tell you, Association of Chief Police Officers, good on, she's the Chief Constable of British Transport Police, I think. But each person has a lead of, and each has a lead in a certain skill area. So she's brilliant. Just checking my notes on there. Yeah, so I'm really impressed. I'm glad that I think we are coming out with a little bit more just honesty. Let's talk about it straight instead of having agendas. Nobody believes of any worth is believing that the IOPC are any reasonable standing. It's completely they're completely there's no faith in them, and forget a fair hearing or whatever like that. Been to Cornwall in 1999. Well, the book's based in 1994, Stephanie. You should have a look at it. It will take you right back there. Taser's a good thing to control people. It shouldn't be used as a torture thing. It's like let go, let go. It shouldn't be used for that. It is literally for... It's ideal for somebody who is just absolutely angry and mad, and the police officer is 5'2", and the guy's 6 foot wide, or all the police officers are 6'2", and the guy's on drugs and has got martial arts and he's got this reg and he's got a weapon in his hands. And why are you going to, if you think you're hard enough to take that on, are you hard enough to take it on every day for 30 years? That's the difference. When people say, "Oh, come on then." It's like, I will if I have to, but if I don't have to, then I'll use the tools available. LP, evening, Harry. Hope all is well. You ever felt burnt out prior to becoming an FO? We're fortunate in Devon and Cornwall. We're busy more doing... the burnt out, you will, if you're on response, you will burn out in Devon and Cornwall. Don't think that it's all ice creams and joy, because it's just less of you. And so you are going to the mental health, the domestics, that sort of thing is just non-stop. You could have a city of Exeter with 8 people covering it, 8 officers. I can say that to you now. I could never say that to you when I was in the job. But and then 2 of them are on cell watch and 2 of them in a hospital watch with mental health patient on a late turn because there's no mental health available, or they're drunk and violent, so they won't deal with them. So the police officers are babysitting them, quite frankly, until they sober up or until someone takes them. It's and then you're left with 4 to run all the immediates and stuff. And you're bringing resources in from other areas like Tiverton and Exmouth and whatever. Well, there's only two down there. It's almost a state of emergency as far as that's concerned. And the same for ambulances. The police, that's the problem. The ambulances are so stretched. Again, with mental health, that sort of thing, it's really, really broken situation. They're doing the best they can, but it means that no longer, when we call an ambulance a road traffic collision, there's an ambulance there straight away. Not necessarily, and sometimes it can be a long time. If you're in the queue where there's a lady with chest pains, can you have an ambulance before we take her out the car? Well, she could be there for like 3 hours. This is examples from me. Nobody's fault. You can't get a pint out of quart pot or whatever. That sounded good at the time. I don't know if it's right, but we've got a bit of rocking here. Real wind here, guys. 23 minutes past. Let's get on. As well, right. So yeah, not burnt out, because I tell you, there was one point when I was had a Glock on me. I was in the office. I had a bit of a problem with my section. There was a personal issue there. There was somebody who was suffering PTSD, and they never came back in the end. They went to a hanging and never quite got over that. A hanging of a 13-year-old. It's actually that one. They gave me permission to use that in the book, in this one here, where they entered the house and started almost telling them off for not opening the door, and found that they were hanging from the banister and they were just stood there, looked like they were standing there. So those sort of things can get someone, and that was the final for that. So it was going through that. I'd been asked to do a farm's tactics advice on a job coming up, but that boss was saying, I need that like in the next couple of hours, please. Yeah, no problem. Then another pursuit tactics advice came in. There was no one else to deal with it. It was ongoing, so I had to go on the radio for that one. I had the Met calling me saying that we've got a very high-risk MISPA. These 4 addresses need checking now. Well, I didn't have any resources free in the very near future. That sort of thing. And I started feeling chocolate coming out my ears, and I had to be very careful. There wasn't a 9mm size hole in my computer screen. And I pushed the desk away because I just attended a funeral of a guy in control room. And it was a week later, and I just knew everyone had forgotten him. They hadn't forgotten him, but you know what it's like? It's this shock that somebody's died. It's the build-up for the funeral, and everyone goes to the funeral, and then after the funeral, everyone gets on with their lives, of course, don't they? And so you sort of realise that if you died tomorrow, the world would continue. And that was a real epiphany for me. Just don't get wound up. Don't get stressed like that. Take your time. Relax. Take everything in. Just keep everything proportionate, because nobody's going to thank you for breaking your backside. As long as you're busy and you can say, I used to say, well, yeah, I'll do it for you, but could you just let me know where you think I can do it? That's why. And there's a situation like that where I was in. I had sort of 3 bosses who all thought I had nothing else to do but the bit for them. And we're very similar positions, no doubt, with people listening to here. But it's just getting into things in perspective and think, do you know what? Sod it. Don't care. I'll say, well, I wasn't able to do it. So you do prioritize and you get things done. Somebody could tell I'd forgotten her name. Lucy Dorsey. And I think, is it Dorsey? I've only seen it written, but good on her. Quite a striking chief constable, really very effective, and love it that somebody's coming out saying challenging inappropriate comments about police officers, good men and women doing their job and being belittled by second-rate crap investigations that are so biased from the beginning. It's a bit like asked to do to a broad project. How can you do a project? And these are the the findings we want you to achieve. Sod the investigation. It's like rubbish. Yes, definitely 13. Oh, you were 13 years old then, when you were in Cornwall. There's some people walking out. I tell you. There was a domestic happening here outside here, really rare. You can tell it's a rougher neighbourhood around here. And it was kicking off. I was laughing so much because it was somebody getting so excited over nothing. It was just quite nice to be able to think, oh, shut up. One day these people are going to pick on the wrong people, It doesn't happen often enough, does it? These bullies that go out and try to intimidate members of the public. If it was, I would have joined in if it was somebody. But it was an equal match, to be quite funny. So I took a chair and took popcorn. Antonia Tangye. Yes, I'd like a cup of tea. That is my sister, and she is in there. I'm working. We are a little team. We're a little team. I would like a cup of tea. Could you do my Countess Grey, loose tea? And thank you. That would be appreciated. Okay, Simon, what have we got? Simon, hey, Harry, been response now for 4 years. Last night, 3 double crewed units covering mid and east, all committed. That's the reality. That is the reality, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I get particularly defensive when people are openly critical. It's like terms and conditions. Yes, I know they're not perfect. There's some things they do wrong. Perhaps it's because they're knackered. Perhaps it's because they're abused by not only yobs and criminals that get out the next day and laugh in their faces while the cop's still got a black eye. And maybe it's because there's certain authority organizations such as the IOPC and others who have a lot of the media time, just basically spin this sort of thing out. I think the majority of people know. The majority of people know that the police, men and women of our great British police force, are good people. Yes, exactly that. Yeah, just take a breath. Take a breath and think. If you, it's a bit drastic, I know. But if you died tomorrow, oh look here, this is my sister Antonia. I know she's dead ugly. I know. Thank you. I can't. Oh no, thank you. Oh, you're great. Thank you, sister. Thank you. Cheers. I know she's the ugly one of the family. And Countess Grey. Countess Grey. I tell you. 1 minute left. If you could see what I'm doing here. All right, here we go. We've got birdseed here. My knees. I have got shorts on. Tea then. And boxes. Good Cornish hedge. Strimmer. Sunset. It's not bad, is it? And it's all free. Apart from the tea, I'm going to have to pay it back somehow. Quickly go through this. I I was bought by. Hang on, I was bought by cops in my family. What, you in the market and they bought you? I don't know. Oh yeah, gosh, I can hear seagulls. Sounds lovely, and the sun is shining. Cloudy in London. That's the problem with London, isn't it? All that needs saying. Was told PTSD. Okay. Right. Okay. No. Was told PTSD is attention seeking. No, I think sometimes that's where you've heard me talking about anxiety, nervousness, and being worried, getting mixed up for anxiety and depression, that side of things. So we've got to be really careful, because otherwise those who need help are lost in the myriad of those who are saying, I'm suffering from this, when actually, no, it's a natural phenomenon. But PTSD is very clearly something that that we need to deal with a lot more. That's the trouble, isn't it? It's counselling is one of the best things you could do for PTSD, but you can do that informal counselling, talking amongst yourselves and making it very natural side of things. But counselling is expensive, and they haven't got any money, and so it's pretty much people are left in their own devices far too much. But thank goodness the military are getting so much better than they were. Yeah, lovely view. I tell you, I really recommend Newquay here. Beautiful in the summer. I was lucky. I used to go to school, literally run down the road, get my trunks on, down to the beach. We didn't have much money, to be honest. We really didn't have much money, and didn't need it with this. And we never went summer holidays, because my parents then used to have to make money in the summer. And Countess Grey tea. Thank you, sister. She's good. She's the most amazing photographer. All those photographs on my Twitter account and LinkedIn. Oh, if I didn't know, I'll put some more on LinkedIn, Facebook, and all that. So it's her. Brilliant. She knows what she's doing, I tell you. She knows what she's doing. Any advice for an aspiring AFE been in response for 5 years? That's a good time to be on response for 5 years. You've got a good amount of experience. Do you know what? You just got to go for it. And don't be put off if you don't get through the first time, because the first time will really prepare you for the second time. And they need them. It's a tough thing, tough job. Don't look at the big mountain. Step by step, get through the first stage, get through the second stage. I genuinely didn't think I would do it, and yet I did. So advice, just be the best copper you can as an ARV. Make sure your stop search is perfect. Make sure your prisoner handling is perfect, because they will not, when they assess you, they will not like slapdash policing. When we give them the benefit of the doubt, hello, walking, and it's that sort of, well, I'm trying to put them at ease. Yeah, okay, but they could stab you in the face if you're like that and you're not. Left posture, yeah? Left posture, it's not offensive, but you're immediately, you're able to react, that sort of thing. And if you're searching someone, search it methodically from, one side, front, the other side, turning them around so you're not exposed to their kicking. That all those things is what they'll be looking for. They're not looking, when they're assessing you, not looking for a great AFO. They're looking for a great copper that they can turn into an AFO. Yes. Okay, best advice for new police officers joined via the PCDA route. There's some good ones coming through, I believe. Is learn from those proactive cops, because the proactive ones tend to know their laws inside out. What I can have, what I'm still hearing, is that some cops who get through their system, they know all about the law and they know about not getting into trouble and things like this. They still don't know. You need to know your public order like that. You need to know your powers of use of force, Section 3 Criminal Law Act. A person may use such forces as reasonable in the circumstances in the prevention of crime. So you can use it. So you have the power to do that. It's when you're unsure, can I grab this person and move him to the side? He says, don't touch me, and you say, well, yeah, I can touch you. Spin him around. You are 2 minutes to start walking home or you're nicked. Because that confidence is where those people then go, oh, okay, I've had enough of this. But if you're unsure and if you're hesitant, as many are because they haven't got much experience, perhaps, then they will eat you alive. And so it's know your public order, know your drink drive laws, and most of the other stuff you can look up. But is that, theft or something? Take the name and address and look up. Oh, was it fraud or whatever? As long as you know who they are, So that is the front. And be yourself. Use your skills. Your skills would be you're far better at stuff than I am at certain things. That I use. What I'm trying to say is you make the best of your skills to then shine as that police officer, and your skills in certain area could be completely different from mine. That's it. The way you explain the IOPC okay, let's see. Harry, the way you explain the IOPC investigations, they seem to want to make the police look bad. Can you speculate why do they gain from it? Yeah, I tell you, one of the problems is they have an awful lot of influence from people who are complaining about the police, and very, very little influence from a balanced viewpoint. So they will not go out with police and see what the issues are on the front line. They will not. I know where the court cases where the IOPC are with the meant to be an independent investigation, and they're laughing and joking with those making complaints walking into the witness room. I know the same very serious offence where there were 10 meetings with the person making a complaint and 0 meeting. No, I lie. 1 meeting with the police officer involved. It's wrong. It's wrong. And I guess it doesn't happen to enough police officers to cause a furore. I'm over time here now, but there's lots of questions coming, and I've missed you guys. But I think it's because you want to know you want to see more sun. It's still up there. Bit of a seagull gliding around. It's all right. London, you'd get a big fat pigeon, wouldn't you? No, I love London though. How do you manage to remember all the different laws? I'll tell you what, I used to think section 25 of PACE. I would think, I'm going to have to learn section 1 to section 24, but you don't. It's those individual ones that stick out. And to be honest, it is the ones that you need on the cuff that you learn. All right, those are the laws you learn. Yeah, you can learn your definitions of burglary and theft and all this sort of thing. But it's those ones like the public order, or when you can actually arrest a drink driver, and when you can bash their front door in to then arrest them for drink driving after they've made off from you. But you don't want to get to the door and go, oh, can I go in there or not? Or even worse, you go in there, then you get assaulted because you've asked them to blow into a tube, and actually you haven't got a power to get them to blow into a tube when they're in the house. It would be a straight section 4 arrest, for example, then. But say you did that, which is relatively common, completely legitimate, good meaning, and then you've got someone who's been let off for assault on police, which is shocking. That the law's crap on that side of things, but there we go. Right, okay. Quite a few who worked in the old CDIB. Now, CDIB were people who they were sort of would help crime incidents, and so police officers would phone them, and they would tackle the crimes out and things like that. And so got to know a lot of laws and what was the definition of this, that, and the other. Went through that route and joined as police officers, from the law. But working with animals do so much with me. I'm getting to study about drugs. Okay, who joins? Yeah, who joins? They do have some ex-cops, I believe, but mainly civilians. I've had, our seasoned armed response cops who are in an interview room, and they're being interviewed by 24, and there's nothing wrong with 24-year-olds, but 24-year-old investigator who doesn't actually know the gun the police officer uses or anything, is suddenly you realize that there's someone who knows nothing about the subject that they're going to be interviewing, and then they're going to be helping to make recommendations on the file of this officer. It doesn't fill you full of confidence, does it? So various backgrounds, but there's not many from the policing side, because they want to keep it independent and not be accused of having a bunch of mates in there protecting police. So they go the other side instead. Thank you, Yeah, right. I'm going to say, just finish off. Just graduated my degree in criminology. That's a good one to have. That's a proper one, isn't it? And I have always aspired to join, but don't know whether I should wait a few years as I'm only 21. Thoughts? I joined when I was 21. I was very young. Give it a couple of years, you'll probably stand a much simpler chime to join because you've gained that experience and whatever. But hell, give it a go. Give it a go. I managed to blag it. It's the sort of thing that you could give a go, and if you didn't, to me actually, when I was 19, they said no, go away and grow up for a bit. So I fooled them the second time, and then I came back and I managed to get in. But you might not be successful. But don't let that put you off. Then just go and do something exciting, come back, and then you are far better prepared then for your next interview. Good luck with that. Let us know how you get on. Good. Thank you. Thanks for answering. Oh, right. Good. Okay. Have you heard the Police Scotland are finally getting body cameras? They have been a bit slow in the past. The Police Scotland, some of your bosses, the politicians got involved. And a bit like the Met, too many politicians in the higher ranks who haven't been on the front line for long enough. And you can get into a bit of a mess. And then you get some stunning supervisors like Dan Ivey and people like that. Top supervisors. And but anyways, Police Scotland used to have the ARVs, where armed response vehicles, where they weren't allowed to attend incidents because it was political and guns and dealing with stuff. So you'd have some nasty incidents literally around the corner. Devon and Cornwall were sending ARVs to any incident for years before them. So you only had to ask us. I think, ladies and gentlemen, and whoever wants to call themselves anything, that's fine by me. Probably doesn't. I'll end it there, shall I? Anyway, I'll tell you what, I've got a question on there. I'm going to take the question off. Yeah, if you do support me and presents for people, especially birthday presents and things like that, book on that one, all Amazon, available on Amazon, and bestseller. That's really good reviews on both ones and all that sort of thing. And if you want to go have an idea of what the flavour of Farms and Fatal was, a real good flavour of humanity and policing and what it's all about, really. And it was remarkably popular, so I'm very pleased about that. Ladies and gentlemen, 1942. It is too late. I've kept you on enough. I'm going to finish my tea and have a nice, relaxing evening. Goodbye.